Brits silenced, the rotten royals, forcing a nation into dangerous quiet. It began with a glimpse, a headline that many would scroll past, half smiling at its bluntness, unaware of the storm it carried beneath its words. William and Kate have become the prince and princess of boring, Amanda Platell declared in the Daily Mail. She went further, insisting they needed to stop skulking around and take a leaf out of Harry's book, or risk Charles's wrath. At first glance, it was almost laughable. The Mail, known for its unwavering loyalty to the monarchy, had allowed one of its columnists to call the future king and queen boring. Platell, a veteran journalist, had pierced the carefully curated royal façade. William, often portrayed as the responsible heir, and Kate, adored as a picture of composure and tradition, were stripped of their shine in a few sentences. But the laughter didn't last. Almost as soon as those words were published, a second headline appeared, this time not fierce, but apologetic, not critical, but contrite. "I'm so disgusted with myself for the cruel thing I said about Kate," Platell wrote. "I'm choking on my words now I know the truth. Kate, I'm just so sorry." 2 articles, 2 stories, 2 versions of reality. The contrast was shocking. One moment, the heir and his wife were boring and guilty of skulking. The next, Kate was untouchable, a woman so sacred that even the faintest criticism was too cruel to bear. The question that echoed across Britain was not whether Platell had changed her mind, but why. What had happened in the hours or days between the 2 publications? What force had compelled a seasoned journalist to retract her words with such vehemence, to not only withdraw, but to humiliate herself publicly, grovelling in an apology that seemed more like a confession under duress than a sincere change of heart? This was not an ordinary editorial correction. This was a warning shot. The chokehold of influence. To understand why this moment matters, we must peel back the layers of Britain's most polished institution. The monarchy presents itself as a family, draped in jewels and tradition, waving politely from balconies. But behind the smiles lies an institution obsessed with image control, wielding influence over press and politics alike. When Amanda Platell wrote her first piece, she may have believed she was exercising free speech, perhaps even doing the royals a favour by offering tough love. But the monarchy does not tolerate even mild disobedience, not when its image is at stake. A single adjective like boring may sound trivial, but in the gilded halls of Kensington Palace, such words are treated as threats. And so the machine went to work. Whether it was an editor pressured by palace aides, a discreet phone call reminding Platell of her place, or a directive from higher up, the outcome was inevitable. Silence the criticism, replace it with submission. What we saw on the surface, a columnist's apology, was merely the visible tip of a much larger iceberg of intimidation. The message was clear. If you speak against the royals, you will be forced to eat your words. A nation watching Britons may not have noticed it consciously, but they felt it. The quick flip from critique to apology carried a subconscious warning to every citizen who dared to form an opinion. If a journalist, whose job is to question, to provoke, to write boldly, cannot withstand the wrath of the monarchy, what chance does an ordinary Brit have? This is how silence spreads, not always through laws or prisons, but through fear, through the quiet realization that power cannot be challenged, through the suffocating understanding that some people, no matter their actions, remain beyond scrutiny. When the public sees even outspoken writers retreating in shame, they learn to self-censor. They stop asking difficult questions. They silence themselves before anyone else has to. This is the true danger of the rotten royal system. It convinces people that silence is safety, when in fact, silence is submission. The rotten core. Revealed Amanda Platell's public reversal is not an isolated event. It is part of a pattern. For decades, critics of the monarchy, whether journalists, activists, or even insiders, have been shamed, silenced, or erased from the conversation. Platell's case is particularly striking because it unfolded in real time, before our eyes. One day she was bold, the next she was broken. This glimpse revealed the rotten core of royal power, the ability to command silence, to rewrite narratives, to erase dissent, and it raises questions far larger than one journalist's reputation. If the monarchy can silence the press, what else can it silence? If words can be choked out of a writer's mouth, what truths are being choked out of Britain's collective history? If an institution survives only by controlling the narrative, how can the people ever trust what they are told? Why silence is dangerous. The danger lies not only in what is suppressed, but in what grows in its absence. Silence creates a void, and in that void, corruption festers. When institutions are shielded from criticism, they no longer need to be accountable. When leaders are treated as untouchable, they no longer need to serve the people. Britain, a nation that prides itself on democracy, risks becoming a place where one family's reputation matters more than its citizens' right to truth, where public discussion is stifled in order to preserve royal dignity, where power operates in shadows, unchecked and unchallenged. This is not just about William and Kate being boring. It is about the fundamental health of a nation. A society that cannot criticize its most powerful figures without retribution is a society in danger. The first crack in the façade. And yet, despite the retraction, something important happened. Platell's first words, Prince and Princess of Boring, cannot be unsaid. They revealed what many Brits already felt but were too afraid to voice, that the royals, far from being inspiring leaders, are often detached, dull, and out of touch. The apology may have been forced, but the truth had already escaped. The crack in the royal façade had been revealed, and once cracks appear, they are difficult to seal. For every apology that silences a journalist, there are thousands of Brits who read between the lines. They know when someone has been pressured, they know when the truth has been twisted, and though they may not speak it aloud, they carry that knowledge with them. It is in those quiet recognitions, those moments when people whisper, "Something isn't right here," that resistance begins. A warning to the nation. The lesson from this glimpse is not only that the monarchy can silence voices, but that it will, if given the chance. Platell's words are a warning not just to journalists, but to every Briton. Be careful what you say, or you may be next. And this is why silence is dangerous. Not just for the press, but for the entire nation. Because a Britain where citizens cannot question their rulers is not a democracy. It is a gilded cage. The glimpse of Amanda Platell's reversal is small, but it exposes a massive truth. The royals are not just figureheads, they are enforcers of silence, and as long as they succeed, the danger grows. Chapter 2 must pull back the curtain on the machinery behind it. The monarchy, cloaked in ceremony and coated with the language of service, has always depended on silence to maintain its grip. Silence is its shield, silence is its weapon, and silence is the invisible leash on the British people. The royal family insists it has no political power. The official line is that the monarchy exists as a symbol, a reminder of continuity, tradition, and unity. But symbols are not passive. Symbols are active forces, shaping minds and bending institutions. And when those symbols are guarded with fierce secrecy, they become more powerful than any law. The greatest illusion the monarchy has sold to the British people is the myth of harmlessness. We don't rule, we reign, they say, with smiles that suggest innocence. The late Queen Elizabeth II perfected this performance, the grandmother of the nation, a benign figure who stood above the noise of politics. But behind the myth lies the reality. The monarchy operates in shadows, lobbying, influencing, and manipulating narratives. In 2021, The Guardian revealed how the Queen had secretly vetted hundreds of laws through a procedure known as Queen's Consent, allowing her to influence legislation in ways the public never saw. This was not ceremonial, it was political, and yet how many Brits protested? Very few. Why? Because silence had already been embedded. The monarchy's grip was not through open threats, but through quiet intimidation, cultivated over generations. Silence does not appear out of nowhere. It is engineered. The Crown has mastered mechanisms to ensure its subjects remain obedient. Newspapers and television networks that depend on access to royal events know that a single negative story can mean being cut off from the royal press circuit. To maintain exclusivity, they toe the line. When Amanda Platell retracted her words, it was not just personal regret, it was institutional survival. From childhood, Brits are taught that the monarchy is sacred. Schoolbooks celebrate kings and queens as glorious national treasures. Criticism of the monarchy is portrayed as unpatriotic, even treacherous. To question them is to question Britain itself. And for those who dare to speak, ostracism is the punishment. Consider Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who challenged the monarchy's narrative and were met with relentless smears. Their treatment was not just punishment for disobedience, it was a warning to others. If you step out of line, this is what will happen to you. Through these mechanisms, silence is no longer imposed from above, it becomes self-inflicted. Citizens learn to silence themselves, to avoid ridicule, rejection, or worse. The grip of the crown is not only on the throat of the press, it is on the conscience of every Briton. The monarchy's use of silence is not new. For centuries, the crown has relied on suppressing dissent to maintain control. In the Tudor era, questioning the monarch's authority could mean execution. Henry VIII's critics, from Sir Thomas More to ordinary clergy, learned the cost of disobedience. Silence then was not cultural, it was survival. In the Victorian age, Queen Victoria was elevated as the mother of the empire. To criticize her was to insult the empire itself. Dissenters were branded as radicals, ungrateful, or even insane. In the modern era, though executions are gone, reputational assassinations have taken their place. Journalists who pry too deep into royal finances, or activists who question royal privileges, find themselves smeared, discredited, or silenced through legal threats. The methods have evolved, but the outcome is the same. Silence protects the throne. When Amanda Platell described William and Kate as skulking around, she revealed more than she intended. Skulking is not just physical retreat, it is symbolic. A monarchy that skulks is one that hides from scrutiny, lurking in shadows, appearing only in controlled bursts of publicity. But the cost of this skulking is borne by the public. The royals, shielded from accountability, can avoid transparency about their wealth, their lobbying, their influence. Meanwhile, ordinary Brits face a cost of living crisis, an underfunded NHS, and austerity measures. The silence ensures that the contrast between royal luxury and public suffering is rarely discussed in mainstream spaces. And when it is discussed, as in Platell's first column, it is swiftly buried. Why then do Brits accept this silence? Why does a nation that prides itself on free speech allow itself to be muzzled by tradition? The answer is psychological as much as political. Generations have been conditioned to see the monarchy as family. The Queen is everyone's grandmother, Kate is Britain's sweetheart, William is the dutiful son. These narratives blur the line between rulers and relatives. And who wants to criticize their grandmother? Who dares to say their sweetheart is dull? This emotional manipulation is powerful. It binds loyalty to identity, so that questioning the monarchy feels like questioning oneself. In such a climate, silence becomes easier than resistance. At its core, the silence is part of a bargain. The monarchy offers spectacle, weddings, jubilees, balcony waves, and in return, the public offers obedience. It is a trade of glitter for freedom. But this bargain is rotten. The people are not given transparency, representation, or accountability in exchange for their silence. They are given pageantry, gossip, and distraction. It is bread and circuses in ermine robes, and in this bargain it is not the monarchy that is in danger. It is the people. For every time silence is chosen, power grows bolder. For every criticism buried, truth dies a little more. The danger of this silent grip cannot be overstated. A nation that silences itself for the sake of royalty is a nation unprepared to resist greater abuses of power. If citizens are trained to bow their heads before crowns, how will they raise their voices against injustice elsewhere? Today, it is Amanda Platell's retraction. Tomorrow, it could be legislation passed in secrecy, scandals hidden from public view, or rights eroded without protest. Silence is not just about the monarchy, it is about the very capacity of the British people to defend themselves against corruption. This is why the grip of the crown is not just symbolic, it is dangerous. It conditions people to accept less, to expect less, to question less. And a people who question less are a people in peril. What began as a glimpse, one journalist's humiliation, expands into a wider reality. Britain is not just home to a monarchy, it is hostage to it. The silent grip of the crown stretches into media, politics, culture, and identity itself. And as long as that grip holds, the danger deepens. The people may think they are choosing silence out of respect or tradition, but in truth, silence is being chosen for them, engineered by centuries of control. And in that silence, The rotten royals thrive, while the people wither. The question is no longer whether the monarchy uses silence. It is how long the people will allow themselves to be silenced. To all my curious Sussex family, thank you all for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, like and put a comment. Bye-bye, see you then in our next episode.